I'm very honored to have Lolita San Miguel here next to me and have a chance to talk about Lolita's legacy, uh, training program for professional Pilates teachers. And this program is unique because it's created by Pilates elder Lolita San Miguel.
Well, lovely to see you, my dear Katya, and it's always a pleasure to see you and see the family with you.
Thank you very much. Let's talk a little bit about the program. Not everybody knows that we have this unique diamond created by you. And can you please share your thoughts, your idea, your philosophy under the program you created?
Well, I sort of get a little nervous when I hear you say, created by you, because truly the creation, the person who gets credit is Joseph Pilates. And I, like everything, we always learn something and then we make it our own. And in the process of making it our own, Lolita's Pilates evolved, because I wanted to introduce certain things like dance and ballet. I was a ballet dancer from the age of 7 and a professional ballet dancer from 16 on. I was at the Metropolitan Opera Ballet in New York City. I was born in New York City. And so an injury took me into Pilates, where I have more or less stayed for 62 years, since 1958. I'm probably doing the math, and you have figured out that I'm 89 years old, and I'm privileged to have worked. Kathy Stanford Grant and myself were the only 2 people that Joseph Pilates certified. And I wanted to adapt to the latest, and at the same time maintaining what I consider is the treasure of what he gave us. I was there in his last year of life. My certificate is from 1967, which happens to be the year that he passed. I went and started a ballet company in Puerto Rico, and in which I always taught Pilates. And then when I heard that now we could all teach Pilates freely, I started to travel and teach Pilates. I was 70 when I resigned from my ballet company. So that we can say is when legacy was really born, because I was teaching Pilates and having my group of teachers, but it was on a small scale because I was still running a ballet company. And so in 1970, I said, put ballet aside and let's really concentrate on what we now call Lolita's legacy. And I started writing the manuals, and it took me a very long time, because when the court decided that Pilates was generic and that the whole world was entitled to Pilates, to learn Pilates and teach Pilates, there was an explosion of Pilates. And I was asked to be here, be there, and I enjoy travel, so I was traveling very much at the very beginning to different countries and meeting teachers who were just hungry to know more about Pilates. And my husband had retired, so we were both traveling together, and every chance I got in between travel, I would come home and work on my manuals. Well, that started the legacy, and the legacy from Lolita's legacy, it's still Joe's legacy. But it's nobody else's legacy. It's Joe's legacy as interpreted and expanded perhaps by myself. I work a lot on the breathing, and I started with breath, and from there I work a lot on posture, because like he himself said, posture is basic. That belly button to the spine is a sensation that is basic to his work. And I work a lot, of course, as a dancer on feet. Feet are very important to me. And I find that Joe worked on feet. He had the foot corrector, he had the toe stretcher, we had balls, we had rollers that we worked with, but a lot of that has gotten lost. Most teachers now don't pay that much attention to feet. Well, to me, feet are very important. Your posture will start at your feet being correctly placed, not pronated or supinated, rolling in, rolling out, and then the body is one, guided by the mind. And that's another thing that I emphasize, that we must breathe, we must get in touch with ourselves. You cannot do Pilates and watch television. You cannot. You're not doing Pilates. And you have to be concentrated. He said it is the mind that guides the body, and he was very correct. And then Pilates, you do not learn from a video, and you do not learn in 2 lessons. It takes years. When they say 10,000 hours to achieve mastery, well, I never counted, but it is a very long time. It is a very long process, because it truly combines the anatomy and the rehabilitation, because Pilates is excellent for rehabilitation. If you look around, we are living in a kyphotic world, and it is so important for us to be aware, taking our shoulders back, opening our clavicles, and positioning the body in the correct position with the shoulders over the hips, and both hips on the same line, both shoulders on the same line. Get back to centering ourselves, and that word is very important to us. Alignment, axial elongation. Remember, gravity is always pulling us down. That's why we wrinkle down. We don't wrinkle up, which we did, but we need to feel that string that lifts us up away from gravity. We don't want to go towards gravity. We want to go away from gravity. Pull your energy always up. Lift tall. You cannot be too tall. No.
I feel very lucky and fortunate as a younger generation of teachers, because I had all of those manuals and videos, and I heard from you. You never had anything like that. So can you just tell us a little bit, what do we have in the legacy? We have manuals for each system.
We have manuals, and we have independent manuals. Like we have a manual, large manual for mat. Mat is the basis of Pilates. You know your mat well. He took most of the exercises that we do in mat and placed them on the apparatuses, right? But mat came first. That is the basis of his work. And then you let's say you go to the reformer and you get feedback from the reformer that helps you to work on a certain part of the body and you feel it more. Our manuals, as you well know, have photos that give you a visual picture, and they also have the preparation of how you sit, how you breathe, what are the common errors, what are the contradictions. People don't need to do and should not do every exercise that's done in the book, or every exercise he created, because some may not be beneficial.
Teach the body in front of you.
Right, and we've always said, what is good Pilates? Well, good Pilates is when you teach the body in front of you. When I started Pilates Contrology, and I went to Carola Trier, became her apprentice and all this, and I am very grateful to her for what she taught me, but I don't have one piece of paper. And I was certified by her, the only person that was certified by her. During the 7 years I went to Carola, I never received one piece of paper. I thought, this is strange. But then I thought, well, did you receive a piece of paper of the lifetime training with ballet? I said, no. Nobody ever gave me a book. Nobody gave me a video. We didn't have them. So I said, I guess that's fine. So when I went to Joe, the same thing. I did my apprenticeship, I taught people, but I never had a piece of paper to give them about breathing, about posture, about nothing. And so I had to write my manual talking about these things, because he had his principles that he followed, yes, you breathe, and yes, you align, but there was nothing for you to take home to look at the next day and say, yes, I remember. Or look at 10 years later. And so a manual was definitely a necessity, and I'm glad to say my manual has the contradictions. If you have osteoporosis, don't do this exercise. If you have a stenosis, or if you have whatever your issue may be at the feet, don't do this exercise. Don't do the jumping at the board, or do the jumping at the board, but very easy.
And it's something you didn't learn from Joe.
No.
This is from your lifetime experience.
It's like, as a ballet dancer, I mean, how can I ask a dancer who comes in and has an injury, to give me 32 changements or 16 or 8? I mean, they have an injury, they're only going to walk out more injured, right? Or if they have been under rehabilitation, then I start them little by little, and with not jumping, and then small jumps and it takes time. We're always in a rush, but there are certain things you cannot rush. The body is going to take its time to heal, and it has to heal before you go to the next step of performing. Because if you don't let it heal, you're only going to get injured again.
Talking about steps, we have steps in our program,
yes.
And it's combined very
beginner, intermediate, and advanced. I have to follow a certain thing in order to be able to keep growing and into that advanced level.
Now it's very popular to have just reformer or mostly reformer, but in our program, in your program, because I belong to the program,
you better.
We have all of the apparatus, and I like what you say, that you either Pilates teacher or not.
Yeah.
There is nothing in between.
No, there's no such thing as a reformer teacher. There's no such thing as a mat teacher. Yes, you can teach math. But when you say I'm a Pilates teacher, say I am a math Pilates teacher. Because Pilates means everything. Pilates means I know the mat work, I know what to do in the reformer, the Cadillac, the pedal, the spine corrector, all of these things that he taught. The chair, the armchair, I know how to work them. And if I say I have trained you, you know how to work them because I have taught them to you. Each one, you know how to work with the magic circle, you know how to work with the weights, you know how to work because we do. I mean, there's nothing wrong by taking a couple of pounds, and as long as you don't go into tension and trying to lift 50 pounds, which you should never try.
Plus to everything, we have something which Joe Pilates didn't create, such as foam roller. So it opens the world.
Yes, and it's wonderful that we have the foam roller. And I was one that at the beginning I said, I'm not going to use the foam roller. Why? Because it's not Joe's. Joe didn't create it. And then I stopped. And I heard myself saying on these things, and I said, that was stupid. Lolita, you're stupid. How can you say you're not going to use it when you see people using it and you see what it can do and you try it and you feel how good it feels? You not only feel stretched and massaged, you feel lengthened and stronger, and you have a sensation that maybe another apparatus doesn't give you. So I got the foam roller, and now that's another part of my training. Use the foam roller, use the toe stretcher, how to use the magic circle, right? Do your exercises standing in front of the Cadillac. And I add to that, on the Cadillac, do your ballet stretches. And then you can also hang yourself, and this is Joe's. Joe did hanging, wonderful. And if you have a canopy, unfortunately, I'm concerned that too many people don't have Cadillacs. And
At least one in the studio.
yeah, you have to
It's
have
necessity.
a canopy
Yeah.
because there's so much that you will lose in the repertoire if you do not have one canopy at least. They're hanging exercises that are very good for us.
A program like a system you created, because also there were nothing like pre-Pilates, right?
Yes.
It's your creation.
Right. I feel that when you walk into a studio for your workout, it's a very personal thing. You have been outside, you have been driving, you have been taking the children to school, whatever. We have a very busy life. And you walk into the studio, you have to relax. And you have to be there in person, in your mind. So how do we achieve that coming into ourselves, that relaxation? We achieve it through our breathing. He used to say, your body should move like a tree. A tree can go in any direction the wind blows, right? That spine has to be flexible. And he used to say, you're as old as your spine is flexible. If you are 30 years old and you are young and you have a spine that is not flexible, you're 60 years old. The same way if you're 60 years old and you have a flexible spine, you're young. I'm young. How about that?
I'm a witness of that because I've seen you doing Pilates even now.
Right.
You are young.
She gave me a class last night and the night before last, and I don't let her leave till she gives me the next class.
It's a pleasure to have a student like you.
Thank you. And I love to be a student. Always be a student. Never stop learning. We don't know it all. Never. Never think you know it all. That is fatal. Because life has changed. There is growth. There is science. There is so much we can learn. From 1 minute to the next, you can learn something. Don't close yourself to all that is beautiful and it's out there and it's so beneficial, because nobody's happy who's on a bed, unfortunately. So many are. And the thing is to be able to be 89 years old and be able to move and move with, you'll have some slight pain. I have some slight pain still on the knee that I injured. And sometimes, the ankle hurts if I walk too much, or the bunion hurts from the toe shoes back then. It hurts now when I walk too much. And all of these things will hurt, but all of them we can control. We can control so easily, and we can go to the source of what.
I believe that part of the success of the program, the biggest part, is your curiosity, and it's who you are, because what we have is truly more than just basic Pilates set of exercises. It's your vision of how you deal with movement.
Uh-huh. And let's say, how do you deal with the spine? How do you deal with the rolling through vertebrae? And it is such a wonderful sensation to feel long through the spine. And how do you deal with the pelvis that is higher on one side or twisted? We can do that, and we do it in pre-Pilates. How do we deal with hamstrings that are tight? We do it in pre-Pilates. We have and how do we deal above all with what is the big thing, core. It all comes from here, we say. And then you say, well, it comes from the feet, it comes from the whole body. And it's that core, that pelvic clock, that movement of the pelvis, just the pelvis, and the circling of the pelvis. And you're thinking, what, it's a mambo? Yes, it is, why not? A cha-cha? It's a merengue?
It's a joy.
It's a
not
joy,
just a
and
science.
it's excellent. And I do recommend, it's bad business for us, but I do recommend social dancing. Go dancing. Move your shoulders.
But
Move
do Pilates
yourself.
before, you will dance better.
Or go right after.
Either way.
Right.
Coming back to what we have in the program, we do use several apparatus. What was your choice?
Really?
What is connected with, and why those apparatus, not others?
Well, I still, to this day, when I finish, there's one thought. Thank you, Joe. That is my thought. Thank you, Joe, that you have given me, and I always have lived in my own home. There has to be a room for my equipment, or very near my home. There has to be a room. I have to have it.
All of the apparatus were a creation of Joe.
Joe, every
So-
bit of. And what's more, nobody else made a reformer. Nobody else made a Cadillac. Nobody else. There is no manufacturer, whether it be Balanced Body or Gratz, can say they met Joe And they used to make furniture for Joe. No. Joe and his brother were the only ones who did Pilates apparatus. He used to have a little room in the back, and he used to like wood, and he would construct his own apparatus, put it in the little back room. And some of you may have heard the story about a fire below that little back room, and some of his equipment that he used to store it there while he was working on it was damaged. But he was left hanging, they say, the next day when he went in to inspect, and the wood planks were loose and he fell through. But he was strong enough, and I'm sure he screamed enough that
to save himself.
Of course.
But he was, at the same time, he was old enough.
Right.
Somebody else could
Right.
just fall down and die.
Yeah. Especially, Joe had terrible emphysema. That's what he died from. He used to smoke 17 cigars a day, plus cigarettes. Well, his condition of his lungs could not be good. And he had this terrible cough. He was never sick, except for that cough was always there. He had arthritis, that he did, but that's very common in the elderly. And, but he really had bad lungs, and he died from emphysema. And at the stage that I was there, he used to have his bad days in which he could hardly breathe, and he would get very depressed, and he'd just sit there and he'd say, and people would go by and say, Joe, why are you sad? You're not talking, you're not correcting. He'd say, no, I have not accomplished what I wanted to accomplish with my work, with contrology. Remember, it was not called Pilates. He did not call it Pilates. With contrology. He said, I wanted the whole world to be doing contrology by now. That was his ambition. The whole world should be doing my work because it will benefit them. He wasn't going to be around to see it, perhaps. Well, we are. Our mission is to really spread the word. And spread the word as he would have wanted to. And life has changed. We progress. We grow. Right? And bring it in. And that's a lovely blouse, Katya. And that blouse probably did not exist because that fabric, and it has changed.
That brought us to the situation with all of the discussions about what is classical Pilates, what is not classical Pilates. What is your opinion about that?
Well, I was there in the last year, and I was trained classical ballet. 15th century ballet originated. That is classical. That is how it was done in the courts, and then how it has progressed, and how it became also modern dance, and modern dance got integrated into ballet. And it was still ballet, and it was still modern. And
it was still ballet.
And it was still ballet, yeah. And what I want, I don't care what labels. I hate labels. It's not a question of slapping a label. I'm classical. What does that mean? Joe died in 1967. I was there. If you had told him he was classical, what was before him? No? And he would have said, what's that? He would have said, and what's that? That he believed in imprinting? I'll tell you why. Back then in the city of New York, where he taught and where he had his studio, is the only place, the same place he taught all the years. Back then, people in the city of New York used to walk, climb upstairs. There were not all these elevators. There were not the washing machine, the dryer, the dishwasher, all of these things. And try carrying a groceries and a baby up 5 flights of stairs. And when you get tired, what do? You drop because of fatigue. Well, a lot of the spines were very lordotic. And so therefore, he believed that you have to bring the waist down. Well, you did. Now, unfortunately, we have gotten the opposite, kyphotic. You know, the shoulders forward, the rear end untucked under, the head forward. So therefore, we have to adapt the same thing. Because he said, your spine is like a tree. And which way is the wind blowing? The wind is now blowing us in a different direction. Now the wind is making us do all these things that are not good. So we have to find, like the tree finds when it's calm, just the straightness and the reaching and the defying gravity, because they're still there, right? And they're still flexible.
We have pre-Pilates and post-Pilates,
yes,
which are definitely not creation of Joe.
No.
Those are yours.
Right. I believe you have to start with breathing.
Yeah.
Huh?
You didn't
No,
do it in
no,
your studio.
you came in, and if the reformer was available, you started with the footwork. And you came in, and if I saw people come in, take off their coats in winter. I was watching somebody else's class, and they put them on the barrel. And I thought, oh God, that hurts.
At Joe's studio?
No, it was a student of his that I was told to go to and observe how she was doing. And I said, how could she think that a cold body comes from a wintry day, snowy day in New York, and you put him on the barrel?
What about Joe? Did he do the most known exercise 100 as a first thing when
Right.
everybody was coming into the class?
Yes, I have never, ever given the 100, the rollover, and the roll-up, which were 3 of the very basic exercises that you started out with in mat, to a beginner. How can I expect him to do it?
But did Joe do it with beginners?
He never, he said, bring your head up. He went, you see the photos, he went, oh, and that was it. But he didn't explain. Joe did not like to talk and explain. He did not. If someone very advanced, or if I asked a question, he would stop listening, he would listen, and he would answer 1 or 2 words.
So preparation part and finishing part of the class is a
Yes.
big thing for you, because it
Absolutely.
came from your experience.
In my pre-Pilates, I also have you do exercises and rotation to warm up the spine, prepare you for all the others. I have you do exercises in prone so that you prepare your spine on the top. I have you do the bridging and certainly the legs, and turn out and turn in, warming up the hips and being aware, because You don't know. You tell me a normal person turn out, they go like this, and the hips are all over the place. So that is teaching you the basics that are going to prepare you for math. Then at the end of class, most of the work that we do in Pilates, that we used to do especially, was either supine, lying down, on the side, face down, but you were not aware that you were reaching these parts of the body and warming up. You knew that all of a sudden you were told to roll over, or you were told to swan and swan dive, and there you went, and you were using. But how do you prepare for these things, right? How does your body do these things correctly with the belly button to the spine, right? And how do we talk? We talk about core, but you need to have a strong core. But how do I get a strong core? I have to do my contractions and my pulling up, my kegels, my working our pelvic floor. Remember, as you get older, you tend to get incontinent. And all of these things are so important. Then at the end of class, you've been lying supine or proceeded most of the time. And then let's say you were on the reformer, the clock ticked the magic hour 55 minutes later or whatever. You get up from whatever you were doing. Maybe you were doing short spine, or you were on the reformer doing whatever, Eve's lunge, I hope. This is good for your flexors. But you walked out the door. Never did you think, I have to stand. Everything that I have been doing in Pilates is taking me one place. Correct alignment, correct posture, awareness, concentration. So I've been doing these things independently, and now I'm going to put them together. I'm going to put them together in walking. Just walking, in pulling up. I'm tired. What do? I breathe. I'm tired. What else can I do? You can pull up. You have been, I'm tired. And now you can go, I'm not tired. And the world is beautiful.
We have to teach them to understand what for we did all of the exercises.
Yes.
This is the reason.
It's not just to annoy you.
That's for sure. That's for sure. So there were not such a thing like a protocol when you've been in Joe Pilates studio, or you were not. How it was? Did you teach same set of exercises to each person, or?
Well, everybody who walked into that studio was a beginner, started out on the reformer. We only had like one mat on the floor, and of course you can start on the Cadillac with the mat, but you never have that many Cadillacs.
So already there were several starts, not just one way to start.
No, right. Depends which apparatus was free.
Okay.
Now, there was never, ever a mat class. I probably taught the only first mat class in New York City, because Joe's studio didn't have the space. He had 5 reformers, he had 2 Cadillacs, and maybe he was hoping to sell one of the Cadillacs. He had chairs, he had, you name it, and he didn't have one. He had several of them, and it was jam-packed with equipment.
No mat classes in the studio.
No, never. You cannot.
But he did teach mat classes in Jacob's Pillow.
Right.
But it was for dancers.
That's right. He taught a mat for dancers that were studying Pilates, because he had a house near it, Jacob's Pillow. So therefore he was there all summer teaching his work, contrology, and then there were dancers, and then he'd give them a class.
So we can suppose that it's not the original idea to take somebody from outside of the street, to bring two different or several different people to one room and teach them the same set of exercises from the book. It's not the original idea.
Imagine.
I want to bring that up. You are not just a person who learned from Joe, but you also taking care of his memory, because of memory about him, about his name, because look what you did. You know all of that, but I want our friends to know about that. You brought Pilates to his hometown.
Yes.
And tell us about all of that.
That, I think, is one of the accomplishments that I consider I'm very proud of. And that was, a lady called me and said, can't you come to Germany? I'm a single mother with 2 children, and I'll prepare a group for you, and you come and teach it in Germany. I said, but there are 6 sections to my program. I would have to go there 6 times. She said, well, we can take care of that. And I said, well, where do you live in Germany? She said, Dusseldorf. I said, Dusseldorf. And how close are you to Mönchengladbach? She said, oh, very simple. 20 minutes by car. Oh, I'll go. If you say to me that you will make all the arrangements for us to go on May 5th, I think it was, to the place where he used to box, this theater, and teach a class to everybody free, because on Pilates Day we do that. And I said, if you will take it. She said, yes. Anyway, I went. And I taught a class. There were like 100 people, which surprised me. It was a big theater stadium. They used it for various, had a stage. And I saw all those people. I said, well, they know him, they know the work. And I started. I realized they didn't know the work, but they were just following. And at the end of the class, I asked them to come forward and talk to me, of course, through an interpreter. And I realized that they did not know Joe Pilates, did not know him at all, not one. Oh, well, we know the name. There's a gentleman, I think he was a baker or something, whose name was Pilates. And I was destroyed. I was totally, here I was, we're in his hometown, and look at all those people. And I made up my mind, I'm going to do something about this. So I got my group there all fired up, came to the States, and I approached all my friends, and I said, this is the story. In Mönchengladbach, nobody knows who Joe Pilates is. So I said, believe it or not, we're going to do something about it. So we erected, I wanted a statue, big statue in the park, but the people of the city, the mayor and all that, they were not too cooperative. And they...
At the beginning.
At the beginning, right. But now they talk too much, but they cooperate.
We know you, so they are more cooperative now.
And make a long story short, we inaugurated a plaque next to the house where Joe was born. And it's a beautiful plaque.
2009, I believe.
2009, I think you're correct. We erected the plaque. The mayor of the city came and all the high officials, and they were very proud of Joe Pilates, except he hardly knew how to pronounce his name, or he really didn't know what he did. I went to the library and I asked for information on Joe Pilates. And I went to City Hall, to the library at City Hall, and they showed me like this with 2 pieces of paper, and it said that his occupation was a brewer, a beer maker. It was like, constantly these knives. I couldn't believe this. But it was good because that fired me to do something. So we had the inauguration. The plaque is still there. We went through so much. At one point, there was a donor's plaque, which they robbed. It was dropped before the inauguration, and we had to run out and make a plastic one in order to have give credit to the donors. It was fun when you look back on it. And I'm hoping that also this lady said to me one day in class, off the top of her head, she said, "And where is Joe buried? Where are his ashes buried?" And I said, "My God, I don't know." And I thought, my God, I never thought of that. So I knew he wanted to be cremated, but that's all I knew. And so we started to look into it. And we found out that he died at Lenox Hill Hospital from emphysema, and that he was a Mason, belonged to the Masonic Society. That we did not know. Katia went hither and yonder, gathering information, and she found out about the Masonic Temple, and then we proceeded to go to the Masons and get information, and we found out where his ashes were kept in this beautiful, beautiful place called Ferncliff Cemetery. It is upstate New York in a town called Hartsdale. So I called the PMA and I told them, look, this is the Pilates Method Alliance. This is your opportunity to have, because at that point we were having, instead of every year, every other year in Mönchengladbach, the celebration and the big conference, which grew immediately. And they said, "No, there's not enough time." So I said, "All right, I'll do it." And we did. We had a wonderful time. We had a gathering in New York City, and we partied. We went to the theater, and next day we gave classes in New York City, free, several studios, and then afterwards we took a bus to Ferncliff Cemetery, and we had a lovely conference there in which every teacher was represented, and every teacher spoke about their experience with Joe. And Brent Anderson was the master of ceremonies. And by the way, I haven't mentioned that once I had graduated from Joe in 1967, I went to Puerto Rico and got involved with the ballet company. But when the trial was over, I knew that I had big gaps in my education from Corolla and from Joe, because I didn't know what osteoporosis was. I didn't know what stenosis, spondylolisthesis, what all of these things, vertigo, and in association with the work. So I went and I asked around, and I was told to speak to Brent Anderson and Polestar, And what I did was I went to Brent and I asked him. And Brent, when I had walked into this conference, which was the first conference in Miami, I walked in with Kathy Grant, and the elders had all been invited. Of course, Romana did not go. And this big man had come to hug me, and he knew me and he knew all about me, he said, because his wife was Puerto Rican. And I found out that he had, he was educated as a physio and then on as a doctorate, and so he had all this knowledge, actual knowledge. And I invited him to come to Puerto Rico and teach my teachers there and give us a class and certify us, which he did. And my group and myself were certified as well by Polestar. And I took the entire program of certification, and that was at the cutting edge. That was more into what I had been always questioning, what is this, what is that, how do you work with it? And there was this liberty of being able to speak and being answered, because with Joe and with Corolla, they didn't really like to be asked questions, which makes it very difficult. When you're somebody like me, you have questions. They say something, but your mind is saying yes, but Brent would always answer my questions. So I was very happy, and I'm happy and proud to say that I was also certified by Polestar and educated in my training by Brent, and sometimes with his assistant Shelley Powers.
So we can say that legacy is something you learn from all of the sources.
It's Lolita's legacy, right? You don't have to put any labels on it.
It's about movement, health,
right,
and joy.
Right. I love movement. I love the sensation of movement. And you don't need to put a label on it. And if you do, and you choose my method, all I know is I've done my best to train my teachers, and when they are called educators, they are educators. They have been trained to look at all these things. They have listened to me personally for hours and hours and hours. They I hope, will carry on my legacy. And that's what I think was the purpose of my life, was to educate many, because I also educated many in ballet, and to educate and to help others to really be beautiful movers and be healthy movers, because it all boils down to one thing: be healthy, be happy, and able to enjoy life.
It's a wonderful statement.
Right, and serve others.
So all of the teachers are trained by yourself personally. Nobody else can train your teachers, your
right,
educators.
Right.
You know who you choose.
Oh, I know, yes. And that's the way it has to be, because Pilates is very special, and it's the work, and the work itself is beautiful, it's wonderful, and it's the best legacy I can pass forward.
And it's beautiful legacy, Lolita. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Come on in more. His name is Igor Boris. he said he wanted to ask me some questions. He is also a Pilates student, taught by his mother. Who else can be better? And I know he's going to be an excellent teacher. I'll have to get my hands on him too. For young people to consider Pilates as a career, I would say yes, why not? Pilates is only going to grow, and Pilates is going to grow especially amongst the seniors because we're living much longer. I have met people where I am that are 100 years old, and people are now doing Pilates into the 90s. So you certainly have a future in teaching Pilates, and Pilates pays well. You will never be rich, but you'll live a good life, and you will travel, and you will meet a lot of people, new people, and it'll be fun.
So what do you think is valuable in Pilates for the younger generation? And
Well, young people like freedom. Sitting in an office behind a desk or being in a store behind the counter for 8 hours. First of all, it's tiring. It's tiring in the mind, it's tiring in the body. We have generally the privilege of choosing our hours, of choosing to teach in the morning, at night, whenever you feel a client needs to work, we have that freedom because you determine your schedule. I think for young people, it is a good sensation of knowing that at a young age you are able to help others, and that you are able to help others in a way that is unique. There's Pilates for the seniors, but there's also Pilates for the young people. Athletes, dancers. Dancers, it's the only method they use. And whether it be New York City Ballet, American Ballet Theater, I can name around the world the companies that have in staff, they have a Pilates teacher and a Pilates studio because it's that beneficial for the dancer. And you get the baseball player, the hockey player. I don't know much about those games, but I do know that they all end up coming to Pilates, whether it's for an injury or to strengthen.
mm-hmm.
So you are able to work with any level of expertise, whether it be the young athlete, the star athlete, or the just housewife, the professional woman, the senior, the middle-aged, any stage.
I would also love to add that for me as an art enthusiast, it's very, very beneficial because it relieves all of the back and everything. So also the artists, everyone, there is no one person who doesn't need Pilates.
You're absolutely right. Pilates is for everyone. This is a profession that takes time to learn, and you've had the feeding process over many years, so you have that advantage. But now that you're more serious about it, that you are more aligned and that you are more focused, you look at it differently, and that is wonderful, and now you can start developing yourself along that lines. But you were saying before that you don't have to wait with Pilates to graduate from school or from high school or university. No, you can start doing Pilates. He's 15, you can start learning Pilates at any age, any time that you feel, but you have to feel it. Pilates is a weird thing. We get passionate about Pilates. We're not just teachers. We really are so passionate about the method. And
So it's never too early or too late to learn Pilates. It's always an opportunity in any age you are.
right. Well, thank you, Igor. The thing also that's beautiful, before I finish, is about this career is how much love and appreciation your clients give you. You've seen it.
I did.
You've seen it. You know, your clients really feel a lot of love and appreciation because they really are grateful that you have been able to help them.
That's true.